The courtroom was packed with warm bodies and cold judgment. People had shown up hours early to claim their seats, morbid curiosity burning in their eyes. Reporters scribbled in notepads, their faces pale and expectant. It wasn't just a trial, it was a spectacle. At the center of it all, shackled at the wrists and ankles, sat my son. The judge's voice echoed, flat and tired, but each word dropped like an axe into the room's heavy silence. Count 1, unlawful confinement, with intent to inflict severe bodily harm. Count 2, premeditated dismemberment of a conscious individual. Count 3, defiling of remains in a public space. I kept my eyes fixed on the polished oak of the defense table. Each word made the air denser, like I was breathing through wet cotton. Gasps rippled through the crowd with every new count. A woman in the back row stifled a sob. Someone else muttered a prayer. I heard someone whispered the word monster. But I remained still. Not because I was horrified, not because I was grieving, but because I was embarrassed. He was reckless, sloppy, a fool pretending to be an artist. I didn't raise him to be careless. I raised him better than this. It didn't start with a kill. It started with a question. He was 6 when he asked me, "Why do animals go quiet before they die?" I told him the truth. Because instinct knows what's coming, and instinct never lies. That night he sat in bed, staring at the ceiling, not afraid, thoughtful. He was curious, methodical, observant. All the signs were there, all the raw potential. So I gave him lessons, not lectures, not punishments, lessons. When he turned 10, we began with the basics: observation, watching people from a distance, learning patterns. He took notes. He asked the right questions. How long would it take before someone noticed a missing neighbor? Which types of people got followed, and which ones didn't? When he turned 13, we moved on to disposal, animal remains. At first, the dog that got hit by a car, a raccoon that froze to death in winter. He learned anatomy, degradation, timelines, and most importantly, silence. You can feel anything you want, I told him, but never show it. Never. When he turned 15, we shared our first real secret. It was clean, quiet, necessary. A vagrant with no ID, we tracked him for 2 days. My son asked if he could do the final part. Watch from a distance as he approached, with a practiced smile. But over time, the smiles changed. The newspapers named him the Grin Man because of the wide, jagged smiles he carved into every victim's face. They called it his signature. They said it was a mark of madness. Pry for attention. They weren't wrong. He wanted them to know it was him. That was his first mistake. He wanted to be seen. But our family's work was built on being unseen. He took risks, used his own car, used his real phone. Tracked his GPS to 2 of the disposal sites. Found bloody boots stuffed under his bed, hair and skin particles in his sink drain. Worst of all, he kept souvenirs. One of the officers testified in court that they found a drawer in his nightstand with labeled containers, each labeled with a name, each containing a piece of a person. One of them was a child's fingernail. The court gasped. His lawyer stammered. The jury looked physically ill. I only closed my eyes and exhaled, not from horror, but from disappointment. I had warned him never to collect, never to leave a trail, and, most importantly, never, ever to involve children. Not because of morality, but because of visibility. Children drew eye, made headlines. He wanted the world to know he existed. I had spent my entire life ensuring no one remembered me. We were no longer the same. On the third night of the trial, after the prosecution played a recording of one of the 911 calls, he asked to see me. The meeting room was sterile. Concrete floors, flickering lights, a pane of scratched plexiglass between us. He picked up the phone. His hands were trembling. "I don't understand," he said. "You taught me everything. You showed me the rules. Why won't you help me now?" I stared at him for a long time before I spoke. "Because you broke every rule I ever gave you." Poof! His face twisted. Anger, confusion, hurt. "I did it all for you." "No," I said coldly. "Plitch, you did it for them. The headlines, the nickname, the attention. You didn't carry the legacy forward. You dragged it into the light and pissed on it." He slammed the phone down and screamed something as the guard pulled him away. But I didn't hear it. I had already turned my back. What could I say to a failed student? Guilty on all counts. His fate was sealed before the trial even began. Life without parole. The courtroom erupted as the verdict was read. Some cried, others clapped. The press swarmed like insects. I walked past them all in silence. That night, I returned home to the quiet of my study. The house creaked like an old memory. I poured myself a drink, removed the floorboards behind the bookshelf. Beneath it all, still wrapped in oilcloth, was the ledger. My life's work. Decades of entries, names scrawled in neat lines. Not one of them ever found. Not one of them traced. Until now. I turned to the final page. Blank, save for the line I wrote that night. Grin man, careless, loud, defective. I closed the book and then reopened it to a fresh page. Because if our name was going to mean something again, if the craft was to be remembered properly, if the bloodline was to be purified, I would have to start again, slowly, quietly, perfectly, the right way, my way. 6 months passed. The press moved on, as they always do. Another killer surfaced in the headlines. Sloppier, louder, caught after 3 victims. My son's nickname faded from the news cycle. The world forgets quickly, especially when forgetting feels safer. I didn't forget. I couldn't. I began traveling again. New names, new city. I moved like a shadow, testing systems, mapping weaknesses. Everything had changed. More cameras, more data, more eyes. But that only made the challenge sweeter. Each test was passed. Each mark chosen carefully. I left no bodies, only absences. My ledger began to fill once more, page by page. Then, one evening, I saw her. She was no older than 13, sitting alone in the corner of the library, reading a book about criminal psychology. Not true crime, not tabloid nonsense, real theory. Her fingers were ink. Her shoes were perfectly clean despite the mud outside. She made herself small, invisible, while watching everyone. A child who understood how not to be seen. When I passed behind her, she slipped a folded paper into the back pocket of my coat. I waited until I returned home to unfold it. They're all doing it wrong. I want to learn from the one who started it. No name, no number, just a quiet invitation. And for the first time in years, I smiled, because maybe legacy isn't in blood. Maybe legacy is in the idea.